What if I told you that old book? 2,500 years written by a general, mysterious from China, still being studied in the Pentagon. To this day, what if I told you that the CEO Fortune 500 are willing to pay thousands of dollars strategy from a man who lived before Jesus Christ was born? And what if I told you that these ancient texts contain such ruthless military tactics, psychologically devastating, until it can still make the enemy surrendered without a single bullet? Welcome to Doctor of War by Sun Tzu. It's not just a dusty philosophy book lying on your bookshelf. This is a psychological warfare manual that have shaped every major conflict for over 2 millennia. From the battlefields of ancient China to modern corporate boardrooms, from Napoleon's campaigns to cyber warriors, today these strategies have one thing in common. Not only did they defeat the enemy, they mentally destroy the enemy before the battle of even started. Sun Tzu wrote 13 chapters that would revolutionize the way humans think about conflict forever. But today, we will dive into 5 strategies, the craziest, that still makes the commanders, military, and business leaders can't sleep well. This is not a tactic of forging ahead and hoping for the best. It's a mind game so sophisticated, is so brutally effective, until it's classified as a psychological weapon. The first strategy alone ended the war before it starts. Second strategy, have encouraged armies to fight with the rage of a cornered beast. And the fifth strategy, so deceptive that a whole army goes straight to their own destruction, while thinking they are marching to victory. But here's that made this more and more terrible. Many of these strategies are being used right now, today, in ways you may never realize. So be prepared, because we will explore the darkest corners from human strategic thinking. And at the end of this, you will never see conflict in the same way again. Win without fighting. Imagine this, 500 BC, and you face enemy forces, as many as 100,000 soldiers. Your power at best to 30,000. Sane military commander anywhere will start planning defensive positions, counting the arrows, and write a final letter to the family. But Sun Tzu, she thought of something completely different. She thought about how make that 100,000 soldiers without ever drawing their swords. This is the first and most mind-tickling strategy from the art of war. Supreme advantage is to conquer enemies without fighting. Think it sounds impossible? Try to tell that to the generals, that countless, who have used this principle to win the war. That should not be one. Sun Tzu understands something that most people still don't understand. Today, the strongest victory occurs in the mind, not on the battlefield. When you can convince the enemy that fighting you is useless, you have won. But how to actually do this? First, you make yourself look so incredibly strong, so that resistance seems futile. It's not about actually being stronger. It's about perception. Sun Tzu called this a strategic deception. It has been used by everyone, from ancient Chinese warlords to modern tech companies. Take an example, Apple versus all the other smartphone companies. They didn't win by having the best technology. They won by having everyone believe their products are in completely different leagues. Second, you attack the enemy's strategy, not their soldiers. You find out what they're trying to accomplish, making it impossible for them to achieve. During the Cold War, the United States did not defeat the Soviet Union through direct military confrontation. They got the Soviets to spend money until they went bankrupt, trying to keep pace with American military technology. The USSR collapsed without a single nuclear weapon being fired. Use diplomacy as a weapon. You turn enemy allies against them, isolate them politically, and have them fight alone. This is what happened to Germany in the Second World War. By the time the shooting started, they were already surrounded and outnumbered. But here's absolutely horrible part about this strategy. This is happening right now in a way that most people never realize. Whenever companies use psychological pricing to make you think you got a good deal, it's Sun Tzu every time politicians frame debate so that their opponents could not win. Whatever they say, it's Sun Tzu every time someone makes you doubt yourself. until you give up before trying. The Sun Tzu, the scariest part. When this strategy works perfectly, the loser, often unaware they have been defeated, they just stopped fighting. And that's exactly what Sun Tzu wanted. To burn the bridge themselves. Imagine you're a general who led an army into enemy territory. You just crossed a big river. And behind you spans the only bridge in radius hundreds of miles. Your army looking back nervously, knowing that bridge was their only way home. Then you give craziest orders in military history. Burn the bridge. Your own men think you've lost your mind. But Sun Tzu would call this a genius. This is the second devastating strategy of the art of war. Place your troops in mortal danger, and they will be safe. Plunge them into despair, and they'll get out safely. Logic sounds completely backwards, isn't it? How to put your own troops in mortal danger. It can actually make them stronger. This is the psychological warfare behind when people have no choice but to fight. They fight like their lives depend on it. Because it really is so. Sun Tzu understood that humans have two modes: survival mode and comfortable mode. In a comfortable mod, soldiers think of home, about backwards, about easier options. In survival mode, they become unstoppable killing machines. The most famous example of this strategy comes from China's own history. In 207 BC, General Xiongnu faced a massive Qin army. He was outnumbered, lost weaponry, and the soldiers were terrified. So what he does, he ordered his men to sink their own ships and destroy their cooking pots. There is no way home, no backup plan, no safety net. Fight or die. Result, his desperate team fought with violence. So much so that they actually destroy the Genie army in what became known as the Battle of Julu. But this strategy, not just ancient history, this is being used right now in a way that might surprise you. Every founder, successful startups have essentially burned their bridge. They quit from a secure corporate job, maxing out their credit card, and risk everything on an idea that might fail. Steve Jobs had no backup plan when he started an Apple in his garage. Elon Musk doesn't keep a safety net when he invested the entire fortune, his PPL, to Tesla and SpaceX. They put themselves in a position where failure means total destruction, and the hopelessness as it drove them to succeed at a level that plays safe could never. The military still uses this principle today. A special forces unit was often dropped behind enemy lines with a limited supply, and without an evacuation plan. They must complete their missions to survive. It's not cruelty, it's strategic psychology. But here's the dark side to this strategy. This just works if your people truly have the ability to succeed. If you burn bridge behind an incompetent army, you don't get a hero. You got a massacre. Sun Tzu knows this, which is why he emphasized that this tactic can only be used with elite teams who have skills to support their desperation. The scariest part about this strategy is how he uncovers a fundamental truth about human nature. We are able to do amazing things when we have no other choice, but we rarely push ourselves to that level. When we have a convenient alternative, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is eliminate your own escape route. 3 messes with the enemy from within. What if I told you that the most battle-crushing in history won before troops even met on the battlefield? What if a real war broke out in a secret meeting, whispered conversation, and a carefully planted lie? Welcome to the third strategy, and probably the most evil of Sun Tzu. All warfare was based on deception. But it's not just about lying to the enemy, and it's about psychological infiltration so deep, so your enemies destroy themselves. Alone from within, Sun Tzu understands something that is still used. Modern intelligence agency. Today, the most powerful weapon is not a sword or a gun. That is doubt. When you can make the enemy doubt their leader, their strategy, their allies, and even themselves. You have won. The ancient Chinese perfected this art form through an intricate network of spies that would make the CIA jealous. They don't just gather information, they planted them. A false intelligence designed to make enemies made a fatal decision. Rumors spreading through us. Enemies like a virus, destroying morals and beliefs. Double agent who appeared to defect just to feed their new masters. The wrong information at the right time. The most brilliant dating from the period of the Three Kingdoms. In Chinese history, Zhuge Liang's strategist need to eliminate his rival, the Mai, but their troops are balanced. So instead of attacking the Mai's army, Zhuge who attacked his reputation. He spread a rumor that the Mai was planning to betray his own emperor. He forged letters showing secret negotiations with the enemy government. He even arranged for evidence of the Mai's infidelity, accidentally discovered by an imperial spy. Result: Emperor Shamai himself summoned him back from command. Sure, that his most capable generals are traitors. Honesty wins without fighting in a single battle. But this strategy has evolved into something more terrible in the modern world. Today's version, not just about military conflict, it's about the information war going on right now. All around us, social media platforms have become the new battleground. To this ancient strategy, foreign governments, there's no need to invade the country anymore. They just need to convince citizens not to trust their own institutions, their own neighbors, their own reality. Some fake news stories that was carefully crafted could do more damage. From 1,000 bombs, corporate espionage have taken this to a whole other level. Companies not only steal their trade secrets, planting false information to make competitors waste resources on projects. They're dead end, spreading rumors about rival products to undermine consumer confidence. They even infiltrate competing companies with employees who subtly sabotage projects from within. The scariest part, most people never realize they are being manipulated. When this strategy works perfectly, targets think they make their own decisions. They believe doubt in their minds are their own thoughts. They believed false information because it seems to come from a credible source. Sun Tzu called this winning hearts and minds. But he meant something much darker than modern politicians mean. He intended to make people want to lose. Make them believe that surrender is actually victory. Make them self-destruct while thinking they're being smart. And the most horrifying part of all, this strategy is effective so that once it starts working, it becomes self-sustainable. Paranoia breeds more paranoia. Distrust, creating more distrust. It's finally, your enemies are so busy fighting each other, so they forget you exist. That's when Sun Tzu knew he had achieved the highest victory. Make his enemies outdo themselves. For attack when the enemy is tired. Imagine a lion stalking its prey in the savannah. Africa, he didn't directly attack. When seeing a zebra, he waits. She observed. He followed. Lions know that zebras will eventually tire, disturbed or separated from the herd. And that's when he attacked. Sun Tzu understands that humans are no different of the animals in terms of survival. Here's his fourth strategy that destroys. Attack when the enemy is not ready. Show up where they didn't expect. But it's not just about surprise attacks. It's about psychological warfare. Through perfect timing. Sun Tzu knew that every troop, every leader, every organization have a cycle of strengths and weaknesses. The key is to learn to read those cycles and attack at the right time when your enemies are most vulnerable. In the warfare of ancient China, this strategy is called waiting for an exhausted enemy. The generals deliberately avoid fighting when the enemy troops are fresh and motivated. Otherwise, they will force the opponent them to line up long distances, fought in skirmishes, and throw away resources for meaningless purposes. They will attack the supply lines, forcing the enemy to fight while starving and demoralizing. They will attack during bad weather, when soldiers are cold, wet, and miserable. Most famous examples come from Battle of Waterloo. In the 1815th year of Napoleon, have fought all across Europe, for months and months, and his troops were exhausted. Duke of Wellington to Huini. So he carefully selected his battlefield. He had his troops stationed on a plateau and waiting for Napoleon. Desperate to end the campaign, quickly attack, uphill against fresh troops well positioned. Result was one of the most decisive defeats in military history, but this strategy has evolved far beyond Maidan. Ancient war. Modern businesses use this principle every day. They are waiting for competitors, themselves in a price war, then ambush with a better product. They're launching a new product right after. Rivals spend their marketing budgets. For the campaign that failed, they hired the best employees of companies that are going through cake and restructuring. Amazon perfected this strategy in its early days. E-commerce, while other companies burn capital, venture trying to grow too fast. Amazon is waiting. They're building infrastructure slowly and methods while their competitors collapsed due to excessive expansion. When the dot-com bubble burst in 2000, the Amazon is one of the few survivors. They waited for their enemies. Spend yourself, then dominate the market. Psychological aspect of this strategy is even more brutal. When people are tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, they make bad decisions. They become impatient, taking unnecessary risks, and ignored clear warning signs. Sun Tzu called this invading the mind through the body, physically exhausting someone, and their mental defenses crumble. Here's why. Interrogator kept the suspect awake for hours before interrogating them. Here's why. Negotiator schedule important meetings at the end of the day when their opponents mentally drained. Here's why. Predator targeting people who are going through a divorce, losing a job, or family crisis. The timing is no coincidence. It's strategic. But this is what makes this strategy absolutely terrible. In the modern world, we live in an age of constant fatigue. People are overwhelmed by information, stressed due to economic uncertainty, and mentally drained by social media. Everybody's tired all the time, which means everyone is vulnerable all the time. Smart operators know this and use it without mercy. They launched political campaigns when voters are tired. With previous elections, they're introducing policies controversial during the holiday season when people don't notice. They made a big business move during the economic downturn as competitors struggled to survive. The scariest part about this strategy is how it uncovers the importance of energy management. Sun Tzu understood that victory often not belonged to the strongest, but whoever has the most energy left when it mattered most. In a world where everyone walks with power, empty people who know how to save and use their energy strategically has an almost unfair advantage. They can wait while the other spend yourself, and when the time is right, they could strike with devastating precision. 5 makes the enemy miscalculate. Imagine you play chess against a grandmother. Every step you take, they're already thinking 5 steps ahead. You lost, left behind, and to the inevitable defeat. But what if you could make them see? Board, that's completely different. What if you could make them count? Based on false information, ghost pawn, and a sudden imaginary threat. Superior intelligence. They become their biggest weakness. This is the 5th and most evil strategy of Sun Tzu. All warfare was based on deception, but it's not just about lying. It's about creating a completely false reality, which will be the basis of your enemy's decision. Sun Tzu understands that human mind has a fatal flaw. We make decisions based on information that we think we have, not really existing information. Control information, and you handle the decisions. Control the decision, and you control the outcome. The most legendary examples of this strategy come from the empty fortress strategy of Zhuge Liang. During the period of the Three Kingdoms, Zhuge Liang finds himself trapped in a city with only a handful of soldiers, while General Musashi Mei approached with 150,000 troops. Any rational person would have immediately given up. Otherwise, Kusel, who did something that seemed absolutely insane. He opened all the gates of the city. Wide width, he sits on the walls of the city, calmly playing a musical instrument. He had the little soldiers left sweeping. Take a walk. Clearly seen. acting real casual. When the Mai saw this, his brilliant military mind began to race. Why honestly are so quiet? This must be a trap. He must have been hiding thousands of soldiers who were waiting to ambush us. If I attack, I will walk into slaughter. Planned carefully, traditionally not a mother. One of the greatest military minds in history. The Chinese reversed their huge army and retreated. Zhu Zhiliang has won the battle against a 150,000 soldier without fighting a single. He has made the intelligence of his enemy as a weapon against them. But this strategy has evolved into something more sophisticated in the modern world. Today's version, not just about this military deception, about information war that's reshaping the entire industry. Tesla is not just building electric cars. They created a completely false narrative about the automotive industry. They make traditional car companies believe that electric vehicles are a niche market for environmental enthusiasts. While Ford, GM and Toyota calculating based on these false assumptions. Tesla was secretly building infrastructure for electric vehicles MASS market at a time when traditional car makers realize they've been duped. Tesla has been 10 years ahead. Industry technology using this strategy constantly. Company deliberately leaked information, fake about their product development, to get competitors to waste resources on the wrong innovation. They announced a partnership, fake to manipulate stock prices and trust investor. They even hired employees from the company rival just to give them misleading information about their own abilities. Financial markets is probably the main battlefield for this strategy. Hedge funds spend billions trying to predict market movements, but they often make decisions based on false signals deliberately planted. One story, fake news can cause stock prices to fall or soaring, creating opportunities for those who plan. Misinformation, high-frequency trading algorithm cannot be cheated to make a massive trade based on artificial patterns that don't actually exist. But here's that makes this strategy really terrible in the digital age. We live in an era where information moves faster than verification. Social media algorithm amplifies sensational content regardless of whether it's true. Deepfake technology can create compelling video evidence about events that never happened, can produce bogus research papers, fake testimonials, and false expert opinion that are indistinguishable of the original. The scariest part, most people don't even realize they are being cheated when this strategy works perfectly. Target think. They make smart, informed decisions. They believe they've done some research and consider all the facts. They trust their own analysis. Never realize that the data that they analyze carefully crafted to lead them to the wrong conclusion. Sun Tzu calls this winning without enemies. They know they have lost. In the world today, entire population can be manipulated to make decisions that serve the interests of someone else while believing they act in their own best interest. The ultimate victory is not just defeating your enemy, but make them outdo themselves while thinking they're being smart. And in the era of information overload, ancient strategy, this has become stronger than the sunset could ever imagine. Cover so that's what he. 5 strategies from old books. 2,500 years that are still reshaping the world today. Think about what we just uncovered together. Sun Tzu didn't just write about ancient warfare. He documented the fundamental law, human psychology, that governs every conflict, every competition, every struggle for power ever. These strategies not be obsolete when swords are replaced by firearms, or when firearms replaced by cyber weapons. They became stronger because at the end of the day, wars aren't won by the strongest weapons. They were won by the smartest minds. And the smartest minds understand that the real battlefield always been inside a human head. Every time you see company dominated the entire industry as if overnight, you are watching Sun Tzu's strategy in action. Every time political candidates won an impossible election, you see these ancient principles at work. Whenever someone achieves success that seemed to defy logic, They probably used the same tactic, perfect, 25 centuries ago. But this is what makes this knowledge really dangerous. In the wrong hands, these strategies work. Do you use it? For good or crime? They could build empires or destroy them. They can create prosperity or cause destruction. They can bring people together or divide them. The power is in the app, not the principle of Sun Tzu. Understand something that most people still refuse to accept. Conflict is inevitable. Whether it's business competition, political rivalry, or a personal relationship, we all constantly involved in some form of strategic thinking. The question, not whether you will face conflict, but will you be ready for it? And now you know what you're really dealing with. You know that when someone wins without fighting, they might resort to psychological warfare. You know that when people seem desperate, they may actually be more dangerous than ever. You know that when information seems too convenient, it was probably purposely planned. You know that when the timing seems perfect, it was probably strategically calculated. You know that when reality doesn't match expectations, someone might be controlling his narrative. This knowledge gives you a choice. You can use insight. This is to protect yourself from manipulation. You can recognize these strategies. When used against you, you can make better decisions by understanding the psychological power. Or you can choose to apply these principles ethically in your own life and career. But you can never again claim ignorance about how the game is actually played. The Art of War. Sun Tzu is not just a historical curiosity. This is the user manual to understand power in the modern world. And now, after you look behind the curtain, you will never see success, failure to win, or defeat the same way again. The ancient Chinese had a saying, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated in 100 battles. Today, you know a little more about both. Use that knowledge wisely.